All right, senior home business family, how you guys doing today? It's Wednesday. I don't know what it is, March 26th. My days kind of run all together, Brittany, but we do have Brittany in the house, and she's actually in the car visiting some communities. I'm in my office, and I'll be calling some communities later on today because we're super excited about the TSL technology. As we've been saying for a number of weeks now, there's 3 different ways to do this business. Doesn't make one right or wrong. It's just 3 different ways to do it. There's a traditional approach, online approach, and then there's technology approach. So if you want to hear any of that kind of information, you can drop down and click a link. Know more about TSL, know more about the Senior Placement Institute and what Brittany and I do, and we can teach you. We've got a 42 module course, the most comprehensive senior placement course in the country. We don't say that in a braggadocious way. It's just a matter of fact. So we have that 21 modules. We've got the introductory course. We've got a $29 3-day workshop. There's all kinds of little stuff down there. You click down there and you'll get a hold of us somehow, some way, right, Brittany? I think everybody can kind of figure that out. But today we're going to get into talking about why seniors leave assisted living sooner than expected. Why do they leave sooner than expected? And we're going to go through 10 points today, including the video. So stay on, watch this. There's a video, something just happened, I think, the last several weeks to the date of this video. I believe it was in Florida, and the seniors are being displaced. And so, I want to encourage you guys, we get involved with this, to look at these 10 things that you might be out there looking for your loved one, for your mom or your dad, maybe a friend of yours, a coworker needs some assistance. You're going online and entering your private information, which we would discourage, Brittany, because if you do that, what happens?
You get blown up. Your phone gets blown up.
Right, you get blown up, man. Who loves telemarketing calls? No, I get them all day long from business opportunities and financing and everything else. Just one of the things about being in business for quite some time. So anyway, but yeah, please do not put your private information online. You want to keep your loved one's information private, and you don't want your phone blown up like Brittany just stated. So why seniors leave assisted living sooner than expected. And we got 10 points and get in a video as well. So I want to show you that video in just a few minutes. But let's get to the first one. Poor fit for personality or lifestyle, right? I mean, seniors have personalities. We're all individually created. We're all individually made. We're our own person. We have our likes, our interests, our personality, right? And our lifestyle. So when a senior goes to a community, it might be a good fit. It may not be a good fit, right? And sometimes in truth be told, sometimes you really don't know if it's a good fit until you try it out. However, when you go through a senior placement agent, a good seasoned one who knows the market, they can actually tell you these different things about the community, right? And help you process this information. So Brittany, what we were talking about is just getting them into the community. Sometimes you don't know, sometimes you do know, sometimes just kind of rolling the dice. But if you go through a good senior placement agent, they're going to, if they truly know the market, they're not just a person that's directing you to a list. And how much money do you have? What do you qualify for? Let's go look at 3 tours and tell me if you like it. All that stuff. Well, man, my 13-year-old grandbaby can do that, right? She can go out there and do that. But not someone, a professional, a specialist who knows the market. So personality and lifestyle. Brittany, speak to this if you could. How important is it for seniors to feel like it does jive with them? Like we talk about the vibe when you walk into a community. I mean, that's important for seniors, right?
It is. I mean, they have to feel like they are a part of the community that they fit in, because think about like going into a new school, if you've ever had to do that, or if you're like the new person on the block in the neighborhood in the networking group, whatever it is, you have to feel like you belong. So if somebody is not feeling like they're a good fit, wherever that might be, like let's say, I get this a lot. Somebody is very shy. They don't want a super active, community, like it's downtown Manhattan, it's come and go, it's all of that stuff. If somebody that's very quiet, that would be very uncomfortable for them, or vice versa. If somebody's very active, they don't want someone that's very quiet. That would not be the type of lifestyle they want to live, and it's not really fitting their self. And I think if seniors, it's already hard to transition. If they don't feel like they fit in, they will shut down, they will get defensive, they will ask to move, they will be unhappy. So it really has to be a good fit personality and lifestyle wise, and every community is not the same. Some are super active, some are not. So, some are demographics, all kinds of reasons why it could be different for each person.
Definitely. And there's a transitional period, right? I have seen an experience over a number of years I've done this, usually like 3 or 4 weeks. It was a transitional period. I saw somebody put out information just the other day. They said it takes 3 to 6 months. I don't think it takes that long. Now, I know it may take 3 to 6 months maybe to get fully acclimated into the community. You fully get comfortable with everything, but usually it's that sweet spot is 3 to 4 weeks. Somebody really knows if this is for them or not. And that's the importance of going through a local senior placement agent. So you kind of know the inside track information more than just the care needs, right? More than just the state reviews, more than just the reputation of the community online or talking to other people. But if you go through someone like Brittany, through myself or someone else that's been doing this for a long time, we've helped several hundreds and hundreds of seniors through this process. And guess what we have? At least I know Brittany does and I have. I can't speak to others, but we've got what we call family intel. People tell us, man, the food was great, but the care stunk, or vice versa, or the food was good, the care was excellent, but man, we didn't do anything. They just kind of laid around all day. There was no initiative to do any activities, anything like that. And that brings me to the second one, lack of social connection. I mean, you could be in a big community, because sometimes we think of this, Brittany. I think first and foremost, okay, lack of social connection, that's probably a residential care home. And I got some amazing care homes, and I'm sure you do too in your area, where they do an amazing job. I got a care home owner. She's a nurse practitioner and has an activity director. So they go the extra mile in doing that. But needless to say, it's still 6 people. And I mean, count it slow or fast, still 6 people. And so lack of social connection. But you know what? You can be in a big crowd and not feel connected, right? I mean, how many people out there, you just went to school, you went to a big high school, but you felt like no one recognized you, no one included you, you're an outcast or whatever it may be. That is what seniors will feel in a big community if they're not acclimated to the community. So this lack of social connection, Brittany, I think is huge. I think the communities, and some of them do a great job. Now, this is not, an indictment on all communities out there, because some do a fantastic job. But the ones that are not doing a good job in this area, please do a self-assessment, man. Just be critical of yourself and say, we can do better. It's okay to say you stink in certain areas and get better. I do that personally in my own life. I heard Gary Vee say that the other day. He was like, man, he's talking to somebody on video. He said, not to be disrespectful. He said, but right now, current time in this event, you suck. That's okay. Get a reality check and now get better. And the same with communities. Just say, okay, we're not real good in this area. Scale of 1 to 10. Maybe we're a 7. Maybe we're an 8. Maybe we're a 4. We can get better. But Brittany, the social connection piece, I just see this being huge in communities. In a lot of the communities that I see that are successful, and what I mean by that is they have a high census rate. The occupancy rate is high. Everything's high. Everything's going great. I talked to a community yesterday. They had 12 move-ins last month, or just this month already. They got another 4 or 5 days left. They've had 12 move-ins this month. And how I know that, because I was following up with this TSL kind of thing, and they hadn't signed it yet because they were out of town all last week and still getting 12. And they signed it yesterday. So, but yeah, you got to have some social connection. What's your point on that?
Agreed. I think a lot of it too comes to, I know we're talking about why, why they'd be displaced or why they would move. I think the social connection really comes to when you first move in, the transition period. If the seniors don't feel like, again, they fit in or have that social connection, they're going to shut down. So communities that I've seen that have been really successful do a really good job at integrating them into the new environment. They have residents that have welcome committee. They really make them feel like a part of the family immediately, not only just when they first move in, but throughout. So there's residents that love to have a purpose, and they invite them to bingo, and they invite them to, happy hour and all these outings to get them that social part of it, because I think the failure a lot is the social part. I think the care's one end of it for sure that we'll talk about, but if you don't feel like you're getting anything out of it socially, why are they there?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how the seniors feel, and they don't want to talk about care and all the things. That's not the most exciting things to seniors. So I think the social connection from day one is really important.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's almost like the care piece, which is the piece that's paramount, right? But that is kind of what is expected, actually. I mean, for you to say you provide good care, I would say, well, as opposed to what? You providing bad care?
You
I mean,
better, right? You better provide good
yeah,
care.
you better provide good care. I mean, come on, man. That's what you're there for. I'm not putting my loved one there in hopes that you take care of them. No, I want it to be good, solid care. So that's kind of understandable and expected. So the social piece sometimes gets kind of swept under the rug or on the back burner because the care is the most important. And I know there's a lot of different variables out there as far as, caregivers kind of come and go, the staff changes and all that kind of stuff. But you need to stick with the community. So the third one, before we get into the video, stay with me because this video just happened a few weeks ago in Florida. So any Florida students out there might want to see this. I'm not sure where in Florida it's at. But the third one before we get to the video is declining health that requires a high level of care, right? So that could be another reason why seniors leave assisted living, okay? So they end up going to memory care. We call it, it's decline. Obviously on the screens, you see it. I like to think of in terms of graduation, Brittany. That's just a positive spin that I do and have been saying for a long time. I know it's decline. I know it's, no one wants to go to memory care. No one wants to be that place in their life where they're experiencing cognitive decline. No one does. And then they also may have to go to skilled nursing, right? Even for a short season or for a long period of time, depending on their needs, if it's a nursing care concern or something like that. But declining health, that's really out of your control as a family, as a person. As I'm 56 years of age, I mean, shoot, I wish I could run as fast as I used to. I wish I could do the very things that I used to do, right? In my mind, Brittany, I can do it all. In my mind, man, it's just kind of like, I remember, this is dating me way back in the day, but my son was in high school and we went to the park, just me and him. Of course, he was a really good basketball player. I was decent back in the day. I still think my son was a lot better. So we were playing a little one-on-one basketball and I was okay for about the first 3 minutes. After the first 3 minutes, boy, man, I was like, can I get a sub? Somebody tag. It was just me and him playing, so I couldn't get a sub, but it was like, oh my God, it's killing me. So declining health. Let's get in this video, Brittany. I want to show this video to everybody. And again, this could be a reason that your loved one is leaving assisted living sooner than expected. This particular situation is a community you're about to see in Florida, happened several weeks ago. It's AL and memory care combined. You'll see a lot of the large communities do this, right? They'll have assisted living on one side, memory care on the other. And this particular community, for whatever reason, I didn't really get full clarity as to why, but they were shutting down the memory care portion of it, right? Probably was a financial decision. That's my guess. I have no idea, but it probably was just a financial decision. And maybe they wanted to put those additional resources because maybe they were limited on the other side and put those additional resources on the AL side. And it was a business decision they made. Nevertheless, these seniors were displaced. So I want to show you this video and kind of get you guys' take on it.
Patsetta Lawhorn have been living at the Oasis assisted living facility for over 8 years, but now they say they've been forced to find a new place to call home.
We are trying to see if we find somewhere to get out, to go. We have not gotten back any deposit money either. And they took the rent before they gave us telehouse that we have to get out.
We saw at least 3 moving vans and workers packing things up Wednesday morning at the facility along West Commercial Boulevard in Fort Lauderdale. Residents tell us management at the senior living community held an emergency meeting in early March.
They just came on the 5th and held a meeting and told us that we all have to get out by the ending of this month. We all depressed. Some people have to go to the hospital. Some people get sick. I suffer from hypertension. I have 1 kidney and the spleen is out. And my husband suffered from PTSD and everybody is all stressed and sick.
Residents say this is only affecting the memory care unit.
We have to move out because they're dismantling the memory care unit.
Stephen.
Okay, well, anyway, it goes through, that guy puts a really positive spin on it. Matter of fact, he says, hey, that's basically what life deals with you sometimes, and you got just accept it and move on and, make the best choices, that kind of thing, which I thought was really good. But I just want to show a little bit of that because that could be a reason that your loved one needs to move from assisted living or memory care is they're getting displaced. So my encouragement to you guys out there is families, and maybe even senior placement agents, you're dealing with families, always have a contingency plan. Always have a plan B. Now, doesn't mean, take it take a situation here. Let's say you go on 3 tours, right? 3 tours, and you really like community A, but B and C were really close. You might want to keep tabs with B and C. Doesn't mean you're looking to move mom and dad. Doesn't mean you're like, okay, the first conflict that arises in community A, I'm leaving. But I think the contingency plan in this situation is if your loved one was in memory care at community A and obviously they shut down, then you have more of a route to go, a clear path to go to B or C, and just getting some information in that regards. Now, as a senior placement agent, please, I encourage you guys strongly, and I think Brittany knows what I'm going to say about this because I know somebody, or at least know of her on the coast, where she double dips. She actually refers somebody to a community, gets paid 30 days thereafter, reconnects with the family, lets them know she found a place that's a little bit lower, a little bit less expensive, and closer to where the daughter works or something like that, ends up moving, gets the double dip. Now, if you're a senior placement agent, please do not do this. This is unethical. It's not good business practices. It's just, you just don't want to get caught up in that. I'm telling you, when she's experienced, and I won't give you her names. Actually, I can't remember her name, so I really can't anyway. But a lot of the communities, and majority of them, have refused to do any work with her anymore because they understand. I mean, these communities, you guys, really don't get paid. I mean, literally get some profit until about 2.5, 3.5 months into the process when they dish out a referral fee. Now, when they compensate with a community fee, meaning that you move in, let's say at $5,000, and that's going to be your monthly rent and care, and they throw another $5,000 on top for the community fee, in that situation, it's probably more like 2 months, 2.5. But if they don't do a community fee or they reduce the community fee, then it's more like 3.5 months before they actually start getting some really good profit. And I know we hate saying profit when we're talking about taking care of seniors, but we have to understand that with communities, they are in business to make a profit. You've got investors, you've got the management group, you've got the regionals, you've got corporate maybe, you've got a residential care home, the owner or the owners of the care home or multiple care homes. And they've got to stay profitable. If they're not profitable, they're not going to be in business any longer. And if they're not going to be in business, then your loved one and my loved ones are not going to have anywhere to go. So they need to be profitable. So be understanding of that. But let's get to the fourth one, Brittany. I don't see a whole lot of this one, but I want to throw it in there. And I'll tell you what I mean by it and let you expound on it. As families misjudge the seniors' readiness, I think sometimes seniors get moved too fast or they get moved way too slow. I kind of see the latter being more prevalent, and what I'm doing is families, and I get it, they're trying to hold on because they're encountering resistance from mom or dad at the beginning. And I totally get it. You want to move your mom or dad and they're fighting you tooth and nail, man. They don't want to move. And and you feel bad because then you start feeling guilty. I've had this comment to me many times is that, man, I feel really guilty. I'm putting my mom in an old folk home, man. I feel like I'm abandoning her. I feel like I'm deserting her. These are true emotions, true feelings that are coming out. But what's your take on that? Just about misjudging the seniors' readiness.
I see this the most. So out of everything we're talking about, I see this the most. A lot of clients that come to me or families that come to me have waited too long. Unfortunately, even if we've worked with them, let's say we worked with them 6 months ago to look at places and we're just kind of waiting. They come back 6 months later. If things have changed, sometimes their loved ones are no longer a fit for the places that we looked at. So me as a senior placement agent, my job, and if you are one or if you're a family, be able to receive this information that we educate on what these assisted living, memory care, or whatever level of care is they can provide. Because I know every state's different, but where I work, once they're admitted, there's more flexibility in them being able to stay. If they're coming in with certain care needs, they might not be able to be admitted. So that's kind of confusing, but let's basically just say if somebody is declining in, if they've already moved in or declining, they usually can get other resources like hospice and things to keep them. Unfortunately, if we're looking for an admission, that's when the regulations do come into play, and sometimes we can't get them admitted due to their level of care. So I see this the most. Usually it is the latter, like you mentioned, that they waited too long. I have had some prematurely not necessarily move their loved ones in, but not understand where their loved one's at. So they think they're more assisted living. And after we chat, they're more independent living. So we're able to guide them in that direction. So I have seen, or my not my favorite one, but the famous one is my mom needs memory care. And then we start talking. Oh, well, she forgets sometimes, stories from 10 years ago. So that's
Right.
my favorite one. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I get a lot of that they've actually moved them into the like wrong setting. I would say they are thinking that way before they have a educated conversation with somebody.
Yeah, the whole memory thing, you guys, and I'm not trying to belittle the situation, but as you get older, you actually get more forgetful, right? And so, but just because someone misplaces their car keys, can't remember where the car keys are at, doesn't mean they need memory care. That has happened to me multiple times. I tell you, not long ago, probably several months ago, I had the car keys in my hand looking for the car keys. Just yesterday, this is crazy. I spent a lot of time on my patio thinking, planning, doing all kinds of stuff. Brittany, I got everything all set up, my phone here on the little stand and all this kind of stuff going on. And I was like, okay, where are my glasses?
On your
Dude, they're
wrist.
right on my face. I was like, where's my glasses? I was like, dude, they're right there. So it happens.
You're on your phone. Where's your phone? I've done that.
Right.
Yeah.
Their phone. So let's go to the fifth one. Food quality or dietary needs not met. This is huge. I would be a stickler about this, right? I know a lot of communities that provide just incredible food. The large communities, some of them, not all, but some, will have the cafeteria, the dining room open all day long. Matter of fact, Brittany, when you came out, was it last year? We were doing a senior placement institute. That particular community, they have open dining all day long. I love that about that. A lot of them have a structured time for morning, afternoon, and then evening for dinner, right? But dietary needs, I mean, that's so important because there's certain kinds of foods that seniors prefer to eat, have to eat, whatever. And these are some really good questions to ask the community. And I think oftentimes it gets overlooked a little bit. And not done on purpose, but because again, we're focusing more on the care, which again, that is paramount. That's top, number one, care. But you really got to dive into the food quality and dietary needs. What's been your experience with this, Brittany? I mean, you see a lot of your communities, not to put them on blast or anything, but you see a lot of them that actually provide what we would call, what I would consider really good quality food and options. And you see some that provide minimal.
I would say overall they do good. I would say overall I have a good experience with them. I do think the larger communities, like kind of a mass production similar to a cruise ship, the quality loses a little bit. I love the home cooked meals, and like the smaller communities, it's just more home cooked, right? It's
Yeah.
less of the production. So I would say that's the biggest difference I see. And I'm not even just care homes, but like 16 to 40 residents in a community compared to 180. I definitely see the difference in those two. So the mass production, I can tell a little bit of the quality is a little bit less, but I would say I don't get a lot of complaints on food. I really don't. When I follow up with families, I don't get a lot. I actually get the opposite reaction on open dining. So I have families that don't like that
Oh,
because,
they don't like that. Talk to me about
yeah,
that. Why?
I'll tell you why. So, you know how when there's like 4 p.m., dinner starts, and then whatever, it ends at 7 or whatever time.
Yeah.
Well, they say their families, when they first move in, they like the set dining times because it's more of a social event. Where if it's all spread out during the day,
Oh,
people can
good
come and go
point.
when they want, and then they don't get to see all of their friends, or they don't get to get acclimated so much because everyone's not going down. Like I had one family say
Yeah.
they loved when we went to visit a community at 4 o'clock, everybody's lined up outside the dining room chatting and going to dinner. It was more of an event. So that was a different
Wow.
perspective. And
That
that
no,
way everybody sees each other.
that is a great perspective. That's something I didn't think about. I always thought about open dinings being like the best of the best. I think I still would prefer that, but I definitely see your point and their point. Like, yeah, you want everybody. I mean, that's part of the socialization part of it, right? You want all your friends there, and if you do go down anytime you want, you might just encounter 3 or 4 people, or it might just be you. Might just be only you might be the only one there eating.
Yeah.
So
They don't like they didn't like that their dad or mom would probably pick the times to
yeah,
go that nobody's there. So they said we really want them to be, yeah. And when I worked in a community, I was a dining room manager. So dinner was like what everybody talked about all day. They
yeah.
couldn't wait to get to dinner. Anyway, so yeah, I just thought that was a cool concept.
That's awesome. Love it. What about staff turnover or poor staff interaction? And again, a little bit of grace to the community, especially during COVID. I know we're 5 years later, and I don't want to use COVID as an excuse, but I think we've gotten past COVID from a standpoint of not having access to these communities, but it's kind of the stigma that's in this industry a little bit. I think it's becoming much more difficult for communities to recruit people to be caregivers because of that experience and all of that. It was already difficult as it was. I think COVID in that season just made it even much more difficult. And so you'll have a high staff turnover and then poor staff interactions, right? I mean, you don't want, a caregiver that's not really caring about what she's doing and she's kind of coming in. It's kind of a cold rush interaction with a senior, right? And that's what can happen sometimes. But this could be part of the reason why seniors are leaving assisted living sooner, right? If let's say the sales team, and they don't call them sales, I know they call them marketing directors, but all the marketing directors, FYI, are salespeople. So when you get into the sales part of it and you say, this is going to be the community of choice, and you put down your deposit, your community fee, whatever you may do, and you take financial possession, dad's there, having a great time. And now as you're visiting dad, you're noticing the staff is just turning over, or you're noticing or hearing more so from dad about the poor staff interaction, the coldness that's coming from them. I mean, that would wear on a family. It definitely wears on the resident. It stirs up a whole lot of emotions in them, a whole lot of doubt, maybe a whole lot of maybe even fear of like, are they really taking good care of me or not? Especially if the whole situation is cold. You're not, what I mean by cold is the caregiver walks in, she just does her responsibility. If it's a shower, if it's medication, whatever it may be, and there's no interaction. Like basically she's just a robot, right? She just does her work and leaves. That kind of, I don't know. I think it's very beneficial for us to provide training. And I know they probably do. And I know some communities don't, but I know most of them probably do with caregivers that, man, that is important. It's kind of like going to a lesser degree, obviously, but going to a restaurant and saying the waiters and the waitresses are kind of the low end of the deal. Like you got the higher ups, the owners, the investors and all that. But dude, those waiters and waitresses can make or break that restaurant. When they provide impeccable service, man, my wife and I are going, whoa, we love this place, coming back. I mean, obviously the food's got to be good, the scenery, all that, but they're kind of like the key piece. If they are terrible, they don't come back and don't wait on us and make sure that our beverages are topped off and make sure that, desserts coming out in a timely manner, or, don't, ask us something and not like bugging us all the time. But if there's like, oh yeah, here it is. Here's your napkin. Oh, you silverware. Here's silverware. I'd be like, what's wrong with this person, right? So same with caregivers. But what's your take on that, Brittany, with staff turnover? Do you hear a lot of that going on today?
Yeah, that's probably the biggest complaint in senior living. Retention, keeping them, the good ones typically seem to move too. They're like for better opportunities, or maybe they're going to nursing school. There's so many reasons why they might move on as well. From the location, but I think that is the biggest complaint with families. I do hear a lot of comments that there's a handful of amazing ones, but there's a lot of bad eggs. I hear that quite a bit. I will say from a senior placement agency, aspect, I definitely pay attention on who the leadership is in the communities, because it all falls down from the top. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So knowing who that executive director is and how they're running the building, I know some that don't take it. They'll tell me and tell families it might take a week or two to find out they're a bad apple. And then, they let them go, or they do interventions or whatever that is. So yeah, it's tough. I mean, these are humans. They are, they have their dignity. They have their rights. A lot of them still have their voice. And it's sad to hear that, some of the caregivers aren't there for the right reasons, but if it's a good community, they weed them out, and they will be honest that they can't prevent it. They're doing what they can. One thing to consider when you're looking at communities, whether you're a placement agent or a family or anybody in this industry, find out, are they using third-party staffing agencies? Find out if they are using people that aren't employed by the company. That makes a huge difference. Rules are not really rules at that point because they're not employed by the company, and that's where I see the most complaints. So when you're touring places and asking about places, find out, are they using agency? Are they using a third-party service? Because I see a lot of faults there. That's the biggest complaint. Yep.
Absolutely. Number 7, hidden or unexpected costs. This comes up a lot, Brittany, in my area, in terms of people. They got a set dollar amount. They know what they're going to pay per month for the rent and the care. And then unexpected fees will come up, whether it be a rent increase across the board, This could be as easy as a 3% increase in the year to as extreme as I've heard it, where a new management group came on the scene and they were going to raise everybody's rents from an average of $3,500 up to $4,500. They're going to throw another $1,000 per resident cost increase. And what happened was, and they gave them 60 days. So most of the contracts will say 30 days. They gave them 60, but they're going to raise $1,000. They didn't end up doing that. They did it slow increments over years, but they didn't do that right away because they got feedback from the residents. Know that your customers, your clients will give you all the information you need. And so what the clients and the residents were saying is about 70%, without exaggeration, about 70% were going to move out. They were going to lose 70% of their residents if they did a $1,000 increase. Needless to say, they didn't do it, and they slowly, kind of built up over time. But hidden or unexpected costs, like I mentioned this on this channel before, where I had this one lady that was sick, and because she was sick, they brought her, and she was a large community. They brought her a meal, and that was great. She ended up being sick for the next couple of days. That's pretty typical, right? If somebody gets sick, they could be better in one day, but man, sometimes it takes 2 or 3 days to recover. Well, she was still sick and had to be in her apartment, and they just kept bringing her food, kept taking care of her, which was great. But at the end of the month, what happened was the family got an increase on their invoice. The money went up. The amount, like, do you go, what? What did it go up $200-$300? And the reason it did because they were like, hey, we had to go and give mom a meal for breakfast, lunch, dinner. We did that the first day, but we can't do it every day. We're short staffed. So what are some other unexpected costs or hidden fees that you hear about, Brittany?
I think the main one that I see is the levels of care model. Some of my communities have gone to a point system and not tiers. So it's not level 1 is 500, 2, et cetera, et cetera. It goes up based on care needs. A lot of them are doing point system. And when you ask them how they are gauging that, that's a whole different conversation. There's not really a lot of upfront on that. But what I have found and what I do is I educate families. What is the max potential? What would be the absolute max? If my mom was as much or my dad was as much care at this community, what would that dollar amount be? Because if you don't ask those questions, that's where I see families like, oh my gosh, we got in for $5,500 and now we're up to $11,000. So knowing what that max is and what is the max, I do have some all-inclusive communities that have little fine print that says, there's an plus charge. So if your loved one is beyond our all-inclusive rate, meaning that you only pay one price when you move in here for rent and care, all included. But if they max out that all-included rate, it's $2,000 more a month. But where is that line? So I think for me, it's families that don't really understand the tiered or the point system and also that extra level of care. So it's not necessarily that they're hidden. That's not the case. It's just it's not forthcoming. It's not something a marketing director just blurts out, hey, the max cost here is $13,000 a month, but you're paying $5,000. So that's where I think that I get, and that is where if I'm going to get a family that calls me that maybe, and I didn't place them in that community, I do a lot of moves solely because of this, because families have moved somewhere on their own without a placement agent, totally fine. They didn't have somebody advocating for them. They realize their rent's up to $13,000 a month, and they might as well be in a skilled nursing facility with 24-hour nursing care at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So I do a lot of moves in that regard. So I think it's not necessarily hidden for me. It's more not transparent.
Yeah, I can give you experience when I was working for a large community before I got into this industry about the point system. We had a point system in that community. I remember having a conversation with the nurse of the community. She was CNA. She ran the whole deal with the caregivers and all. And it was a point system. And I had a particular client that was coming in, potentially. He had 3 ADLs. I think it was something like just the basics. It was like showers, med management, and something else. I was like 3 of them. And so I ended up giving that to her. And I said, what would be because I wanted to know the amount, because the families were pressing me on the amount. I can give them the rent for the room, but they want to know the full deal. And the community was trying to like, well, just, we'll just kind of, play it along, play. And I said, no, this is the 3 ADLs. What's the price? And they could never give me an answer right away. And I was like, dude. And I went to the little cubby area, pulled out the sheet. And I said, look, I'll mark them for you. 1, 2, 3. What's the cost of that? I just marked it on your sheet. Still couldn't figure it out. And my thought was immediately went to, it's not that they can't figure it out. is that they want to see where this, because again, they want to kind of string this family along a little bit longer and see where they are budget wise. That is sad, you guys. That way you need to find that out. And I'm not saying every community does that, but I was blown away. That was kind of one of my first reality checks of a community going, it's basic. There's your point system. Each one of these areas has a point. Total that up, and that puts you in a bracket of this is the price. And they couldn't figure that out. I could figure it out by looking at the sheet. It was basic math. So you want to do that, just kind of figure that out. But kind of, don't be, as what the point I'm trying to make is for families that are out there, if you are encountering that kind of thing and you're not really getting a clear answer for the care piece, maybe there's an assessment, because that's really not done in California per se. There's a 6-page state document, 602 physician's report, and the physician does all that. And so they kind of base it on that. But if you're doing assessment, so if it's prior to the assessment, that's one thing. But if they already done the assessment and they're kind of stringing you along, that's a whole nother story. Okay. Number 8, safety or cleanliness concerns. I don't think we need to talk about that, Brittany, but man, if the place is just not clean, dude, come on. I mean, it don't have to look like a model house like my house because of my wife and housekeeper. It's just because it ain't because of me, Brittany. I can tell you that right now. I try my best to keep it clean, but keep it real. My son works on our team, so he's on our team, so he kind of knows. But yeah, I like it clean too. But I mean, it doesn't be picture perfect, but man, when you're in a community, it should smell good, man. It should look good. You should see, when I've gone to these communities, and just more recently with TSL, a couple of them kind of come to mind, and some caregivers walked by, and the place was immaculate. The place was beautiful. And all these caregivers that walked by for these 2 particular communities had a smile on their face and all addressed me. Hi, how are you today? I just thought that was so cool, because sometimes you don't get that. They're so focused on what they're doing. And again, it kind of comes back to the caregiver thing, but love that. All right, Brittany, hit this one. Lack of purpose or activities. I mean, can't we just have bingo and call it a day? Is that what we need? Can we just do that?
No. I think I really have liked some of the activities I see in communities that are just diverse and different, thinking outside the box. So an activities director or whoever's in charge of the activities in the community needs to be really well-rounded. Doesn't need to walk in. I worked in a community when I was in the community that was literally the same thing every month. All she did was change the month name, print out the calendar. Here you go. Which needs to be some stability, don't get me wrong, in the activities, but think of things, look at the variety of activities on that calendar. Here's another catch too. They could have this beautiful activity calendar. You need to find out how many people actually go to the activities.
Right.
If it's the same 5 people or the same 6 people, there's something wrong with the activities. Okay.
Come on.
They could have, I have seen extravagant activity calendars, and then there's 3 people that go, and the 3 people that go are the same 3 people that go for the last year. So, I mean, definitely it matters. And especially, again, kind of goes back to the other ones we talked about too, finding a purpose, making sure you fit in. You have to have a range of activities, because not everyone likes the same thing. I have a lot of 85-year-olds I've placed that say, I'm not playing bingo. I'm too young for that. I'm not old enough for that. So you got to do more than bingo. You got to do more. And if you're going to do bingo, I've seen really cool, variations of bingo. I've got one community, she dresses up in wigs and hats and dances around while they play bingo. So yeah, just changing it up.
Let me give a pro tip to the communities out there based on activities. Hear me loud and clear about this. I know you like bingo, certain activities, because your community, maybe corporate, maybe you've done it for years and it's just the thing you do. Or you've heard about a community down the street that does the exact same community activity that you want to do. So you try to duplicate what they're doing. Let me give you a pro tip. All you got to do, you've got 100 residents in your community. Ask them what they want to do, and you're going to maximize participation. It's that simple. I love to have a great activity director. If I was leading a community and one of the investors or whatever it was, man, I would have the best activity director I could have. But I also would have the pulse of the community to know what they want to do. If they want to do it, they're going to be motivated to do it. But if you're trying to get them to coerce them to play bingo when this lady or resident is saying I'm too young to play bingo, she's never going to play bingo. And you're like, well, it's bingo hour. Let's go. And it just cracks me up. But I'm telling you, communities, that's all you got to do. Scrap. If you get like 3 to 5 people that are coming, unless it's super, super important for those 3 to 5 people, and you just feel like, hey, you would just break their heart if you never did that activity again, scrap it. Don't do it. Do some other things. But man, just ask the seniors and give them options. I wouldn't just go up to a blank question. Well, hello, resident William. What would you like to do as far as activities in the community? Well, he might tell you some things, but say, hey, resident William, we've got 10 possibilities we're thinking about doing. Can you check off which ones are important to you and which ones you would be committed to going to? Matter of fact, I got a line at the bottom. You can write in something else if you want. And just get to know them. I'm telling you, to me, that's obvious. And the reason it's obvious, because I used to be a youth director, Brittany, back in the day for about 14, 15 years. And that's the reason our activities in the youth area were successful, not because of me, not because of the team that I had. It was because we polled the students. I mean, these are some things we're thinking. Now, you got to give them boundaries, especially with teenagers, right? They might want to go out and egg somebody's house and think that's an activity. Well, we're not going to do that. So you give them some boundaries. These are things that we're thinking about. What would you guys like to do? Oh, that sounds good. We would do that one. Oh, that one sucks. Oh, don't do that. And then you just do the ones they want to do. And guess what happened with the activities? Maximize participation. People were there, man, enjoying it because they like to do it. Okay, I think we get the idea. The last one is just a cultural, religious mismatch. This could go on with their beliefs. It could go with traditions. It could be language, something like that. I think we kind of get that one. But do you have any particular communities, Brittany, in your area, whether it be DFW or Missouri, that maybe has a strong affiliation with a certain religious institution or traditions or anything like that? I mean, because I've got one in my area.
Yeah, a lot of Catholic in both. Texas and Missouri are heavy Catholic. I've actually had families that aren't Catholic, so a lot of them have really good reputations, which is amazing. But I've had families that aren't heavy Catholics, and we've toured them, and they look at me and are like, this will not be a match. So when I'm talking to families, because a lot of the Catholic communities, which is amazing, still have nuns that live, and they're sisters, and it's so neat. It's really just an amazing environment, but that is not a good fit for people that aren't Catholic. And I do give them a heads up. They're not comfortable in that. And a lot of their activities are revolved around the religion. Their activities are communion. Their activities are the sisters coming to visit you bedside. And for someone that's not Catholic, that would not probably interest them. It is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful community. It's amazing. But that's a really good example, because I always have people ask me about these handful because they have such amazing reputations. When I explain and we go look at them, then they kind of change their mind. So just making sure. I have Lutheran too, as well as just Christian, of course, but I also love the communities for families that aren't maybe really, really heavy one way or the other, where they have multiple church services that come in or multiple things. So they still do communion, they still do rosary, all that stuff for Catholic, but they also integrate, just Christian, or I even have a Jewish community. So anyway, Presbyterian's really big in Dallas. So it's good to know those things because if that's a lot of their life, then you want to make sure that is integrated in the community that they live in.
Yeah, we've got a community that is 98%, if not higher, Japanese.
Really?
Oh man, it's incredible. I found out I didn't know this community existed until a guy reached out to me and his dad. They live in LA. I assume he's back in LA now. This was about 3 or 4 years ago, and they had a waiting list down at another one in LA. And so he had this one up here, and he reached out to me and see if I could, get his dad into the community, and we did. I mean, they had a full-blown Japanese menu. Dude, I started looking at the menu going, I love Japanese food. I started looking at the menu going, I know where I'm coming for lunch. This is good. See, I'm telling you, food would be big for me. I'm telling you, don't just throw me some whatever out of the box in the microwave. But, I mean, I would be inclined to go to that community. Now, I'm not Japanese, obviously, but I love the food. But it was just so cool when I was giving the family a tour. That's really, I'm telling you, I don't recall. Now, that's why I say 95, 96, 7. I don't know if it's 100%. I don't recall seeing anyone that wasn't Japanese in that community.
That's actually really shocking because their culture.
Yeah. African Americans. No, I don't remember. I mean, it was just, it was so cool to see, but it was just, that is kind of a cultural thing. And I don't know I can't recall all the different things they would do in that community. But I just remember seeing the menu, and the menu really stood out to me because I was like, go on, man. This is like, I love, you can ask my wife, I love Japanese food. Go to a Japanese restaurant, but I'll be there all night. It's like that stuff. My goodness. Anyway, culture religious mismatch, just kind of follow up with that. You might not have any preference at all. That might not be a big deal, but if it is a big deal, then you want to make sure. I mean, like my dad, for instance, right now, mom, dad's like part of the sessions of his Presbyterian church, and mom is like a deaconess, right? So that would be kind of important for them when they go to a community, if that's what happens, that they would probably want to have some church services there, right? And that would be important. If that's not important to you, then don't worry about it. Maybe it's important for you to have a barber shop, or what do you call it with the ladies? What's the ladies thing? The hairstylist or whatever?
The beauty salon.
Beauty salon or whatever. Maybe that's important for you guys. But get your nails done and all that stuff. And I've seen some full-blown operations in this one independent community. It was like, my gosh, this one looks just as nice as the one my wife goes to. She goes to a nice one. And it's like, I wasn't going, my gosh, this is actually an independent community. So you want to kind of see what's important because, again, care is paramount, but you also have preferences with seniors and what they like. And this will help prevent move out, right? Because that's the whole thing we're talking about today is that seniors, we're talking about why seniors leave assisted living sooner than expected, right? And these are some of the reasons. So anyway, hopefully this was helpful for you today. If you want to know more about what Brittany does and what I do, you can drop down, watch a free webinar. There's all kinds of different links. You can schedule a call with me. You want to know more about TSL, the technology things right behind me, that we're actually helping people get into communities. They do a search. It's like a Zillow search for senior living, and they put in their location, price point, care needs, and all that kind of proprietary software we've got, and it just populates all to the top, and it really helps them. And there's all kinds of different things we can tell you about on a private call. So anyway, until next time, God bless.